All right, everybody, welcome back to Vuln Vibes. It's time for the WP Safe Block. That's right, we are diving deep into WordPress vulnerabilities today. We're talking about those cracks in the code, those little cracks that can turn a perfectly good website into a hacker buffet.
Oh, yeah.
And believe me, you don't want your sensitive data on that menu.
Nobody wants that.
Absolutely not. So we have a couple of critical and high-severity vulnerabilities to unpack today. So
Okay, let's go.
let's jump right in. First up is the paid membership subscriptions plugin.
Oh,
This one's a sneaky one. Authentication bypass vulnerability.
ooh, that's not good.
Yeah, I was reading this report. I was like, wait, just knowing a payment ID can let you into someone's account.
That sounds pretty bad.
How is that even possible?
Yeah,
So thankfully, we have an expert here to break it down for us.
I'll do my best.
Awesome. So can you walk us through this a little bit?
Sure, so essentially the plugin's PMSeg PB payment redirect link function has a flaw, and this flaw can be exploited to allow somebody with a valid payment ID to essentially impersonate any user who's made a purchase on the site.
Oh, wow.
And let's be honest, payment IDs aren't exactly Fort Knox
All right.
when it comes to digital security.
No, they're not.
So yeah, this is full-blown account takeover.
Okay, so that's not just a crack in the code. That's a gaping hole.
It is.
So if somebody gains access to your site, what's the worst they could do? Are they just snooping around, or is it worse than that?
Snooping around is the least of your worries.
Okay.
We're talking complete control here. They can change content, install malware,
Oh, no.
steal data, deface your site. Basically, they become you, with all the privileges that come with that.
So this is any version up to and including 2.1, 3.7.
That is correct.
If you have not updated, pause this podcast and go do that right now.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay, so this begs the question, how do these things even sneak into plugins?
Well, it's a combination of things. Sometimes it's developer oversight. Sometimes it's the pressure to release updates quickly. And the sheer volume of WordPress plugins out there makes it tough to catch every single vulnerability
Right.
before it hits the wild.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so I hope everybody's back and updated their plugins by now.
Me too.
Let's move on to the W3 Total Cache plugin. This is a pretty popular one.
It is.
This vulnerability is a little different. It's more about data access than a full site takeover.
Yeah, that's right.
Can you tell us about that?
So it involves a missing capability check
Okay.
in the is W3TC admin page function.
Okay.
So in plain English, this means that someone who shouldn't have access to certain info, like a subscriber with minimal permissions, could potentially get their hands on sensitive data.
Okay, spill the tea. What kind of sensitive data are we talking about here?
Okay, well, think of things like the plugin's nonce value.
Nonce value.
Yeah, nonces are like temporary passwords that help prevent unauthorized actions. If this is leaked, it could give an attacker a foothold to do some damage.
Oh.
They could also potentially see your service plan limits, or even worse, make web requests from your site to other destinations, which could expose internal data or even be used for malicious activities, making it look like you are the bad guy.
Oh no, so sneaky.
Yeah.
So even though this isn't a full-on account takeover, this W3 Total Cache vulnerability can still have some pretty bad consequences.
It can.
Which versions are we looking at here that are affected?
All versions up to 2.8.1 are affected by this.
And this really does underscore a point that we talked about earlier. It's not just about the severity of the vulnerability, it's also about the potential impact.
Exactly.
Even seemingly minor issues can snowball into some big problems.
They can.
So again, update, update, update.
That's right.
Okay, last but not least, we have the Groundhog plugin.
Okay.
And this one sends shivers down my spine. It's an arbitrary file upload vulnerability.
Oh, boy.
Those words alone make me want to curl up in a ball. Can you help us understand why this is so scary?
So this type of vulnerability is essentially handing the keys to your website to an attacker. They can upload any file they want, malicious code, backdoors, ransomware, you name it. Imagine someone planting a digital time bomb on your server, ready to go off at any moment.
Yikes. So how does this even happen? Is the plugin just like, sure, come on in, upload whatever you want?
Well, not intentionally, of course.
Okay, good.
It boils down to a lack of file type validation in the gay big file upload function.
Okay.
Basically, the plugin isn't checking what kind of file is being uploaded, so it can't differentiate between a harmless image and a nasty piece of malware. Think of it like a nightclub with no bouncer at the door. Anyone can just walk in.
Oh, no. So is every version of Groundhog affected by this?
All versions up to 3.7.3.5 are vulnerable. The good news is that this requires higher privileges to exploit, author level or above. But that's still a concern for many websites.
Yeah, absolutely. So, wow, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We
And it's clear that WordPress security is no joke. It's a constant game of whack-a-mole.
Yeah, it can feel that way.
New vulnerabilities pop up all the time. So for our listeners out there who are feeling maybe a little bit overwhelmed, what's the biggest takeaway?
Honestly, it's simple but crucial. Stay vigilant and keep those plugins updated. It's the first line of defense against these vulnerabilities. And beyond updates, think about some additional security measures, like strong passwords, two-factor authentication,
Okay.
and regular backups. It's all about layers of protection.
Layers of protection. Excellent advice. And with that, we'll wrap up this WP Safe block for today. Hopefully you learned something new, maybe you even had a few laughs along the way. Remember, security doesn't have to be scary. Stay informed, take action, and you'll be well on your way to a safer WordPress experience.
I agree.
So before we go, I'd like to leave you with a final thought.
Okay.
We talked about the importance of updating plugins. But what about the plugins themselves? How can we encourage developers to prioritize security from the get-go? It's a question worth pondering. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, stay safe out there.